So I find it quite interesting when I start thinking about it, but at one point I realized that I kind of figure out what life is all about. And I wouldn't particularly say that I have the definitive answer to what life is or what life is all about, but you kind of realize that it's not necessarily what we're told it's going to be about. Maybe it's just personal experience. Each and every single one of us will have his own definition or realization of what life is, because each and every single one of us have has a context in which our lives exist. So the one way I usually try to think about it is I am in a position whereby the harder I work, quote unquote, level up, the harder things get because of the sacrifices you don't think you're making. Because typically, when you're approaching or like going for something, there's a explicit sacrifice you're doing in terms of like time. Let me put it more as universal sacrifices: time, you know, hanging out with friends, whatever it is it may be that you feel like you're deliberately doing something different in order to attain that. But sometimes you fail to recognize that the more successful version of yourself ends up being far disconnected from the life you're building or the life you're connected with. And most of the time, just the life you grew up with in general. Like, one of the things I've been kind of grasping with, not knowing for sure whether this is coming from a quote unquote entitled, quote unquote out of touch perspective, is the fact that once you leave your home country, for example, you find yourself in a country that you say, oh, this is always what I wanted to do, blah, 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 always what I wanted to be. You finally realize that in that process, you lost a big chunk of who you are as a person. And no one ever talks about that because we just going for something without paying attention to what we're missing. And this is not to say stick around wherever it is that you are, but just be more cognizant and I would say a bit more aware as to what it is that you're ending up uh, becoming and what it is that you end up losing out on. Now, to make this clear, this is not like a, oh, you feel sorry for me, blah, blah, blase, blase type of video or anything of that context. The one way I want you to think about it is that you need to be very, very grateful of every single context you find yourself in. I was watching a TikTok. I think one of the interviewees on, like, I forgot the name of the podcast, but was mentioning something about like the longer you live in life, the more likely things are gonna go wrong. And you also, to add that, like a second dimension to that, is that the more you do in life, the more things are gonna go wrong. Not because something bad is gonna happen, but you pull yourself out of context and situations that you're in. So the quality of your life itself doesn't, you know, elevate proportional to what it is that you're gaining externally, because there's certain things that you lose out on. So it's like you work hard for more money, but you have more money in the bank. You have more money for material things, but you have less time fostering conversations, real interactions with people. Not even coming from the perspective of the people you already know and you feel like you might be losing out on. But think of it in terms of like, as an individual, you find yourself actually living a totally different life because of the ambitions that you have, the kind of friends you have. People say your circle, your network is everything. You end up picking certain networks and circles or lacking network and circles in pursuit of a goal. But then you realize in terms of like the quality in and out day to day of things, you kind of get out of touch. And I think like the problem with that is not like, oh, you're going to miss out, you're going to miss. It's that even your internal locus of like figuring out precisely what it is that life is, as we discussed earlier, also ends up falling out of whack because the life you build on and construct every day changes. The one thing that changes usually is the values that you hold dear, and they keep changing and evolving as you become a different person, a different version. And the thing is, it ends up feeling like that's what life is going to be for the rest of your life. Constantly changing, pursuing something, attaining, and losing out on something you probably took for granted in the meantime. So I feel like this is a challenge to myself, challenge to you in general, just to like take a step back and kind of relish in the moment. I feel like we spend too much time on the things that we don't have or things that we don't have, that what we already have, the life that we have, it could be so simple. Like every single thing that we live in, the world we live in, it's just extra context. But if you don't have a definition of what your life is going to be from the get-go, it's easy for someone else to convince you. Not necessarily because they're out of your way trying to make you join this religion, adopt this philosophy, follow this cause. In general, if you don't know who you are, you're easily going to try to add more things to your plate. But your plate is finite. Like, time is finite. In a day, like, I've realized the biggest mistake I've made was, like, I could do so much. So you're like, like you're paralyzed by the ability that you can do so much. But then it's like, at the end of the day, nothing actually gets done. You just relish in the fact that, oh, I could. But that doesn't really do anything for you. And contrary, like, to flip that on its head, I had to think, like, I shouldn't even be doing that to begin with. Like, sometimes you just gotta, like, be in the moment in life and just ask yourself, what's today gonna be like? What defines this is a good day? Like, the things that I'm pursuing, like, how are they gonna benefit me in the future exactly? And what am I trading? And is the trade worth it? Sometimes it is, because I have realized that unfortunately I'm at a point whereby, like, my responsibility overshadow my existence, and I find myself in a place where I think that I have to exist eternally on behalf of other people in order to define my place in the world. But in doing so, never ever paid attention to myself, my needs, and most people would probably chalk this up to a gender role or whatever. But even in instances whereby there's no gender playing in it, even it's like trying to define your existence in context with other people. I mean, it makes you a better person, people like you, whatever. But it's like, do you like yourself at night? Do you feel good about what you're doing? Like, in the moment you find yourself spending by yourself alone, are you stressed out and panicking over other people's problems? Because I found myself in that instance. And to be fair, I was proud of being in that mindset, because I thought, like, oh, my deepest fear growing up was always like, I don't want to be selfish, because I was like, like, you think back to, like, even grade school, you're like, oh my, I should have just given that person that dollar bill to, like, buy that banana or whatever. It's like, the regrets I have are when I wasn't giving enough. And I found myself making up for all that in my older life and defining myself as being generous as much as I can be, to an extent that, is there anything left for me? And I mean, you realize sometimes there is something left for you, but it might not be something that you like. So whatever it is that you do yourself a simple favor. Take care of yourself. And just try to enjoy life. And it makes it easy for people around you to enjoy life as well if you're happy about something. Because I have realized, if I'm stressed out, whatever, trying to do everything for everyone, I barely spend time with anyone. You know what I mean? And you find yourself, like, going back to the point of circles and, like, networking groups, you end up finding yourself hanging out with people that can help you attain this goal, whether it's spending more time at work than you need to be for the sake of the people you'd rather be spending time with. So think about that how you will. It was just really bogging my mind. I don't know where I'm trying to go with this, but just pay more attention to yourself. Like try to figure, like do the boring stuff. Like figure out, like, you know what, maybe what I really enjoy is like going to the gym, and then after this, I really like this ice cream spot. Maybe it's not so good for my health, but maybe let me try to see how else can I improve my health so that I can get that treat once a month. What, how can I, all those kind of things. I think like you just kind of like want to wake up in a life that you want to be a part of, because sometimes when you spend too much time sacrificing, you don't just lose out on the things you already have. As I discussed, you find yourself asking the worth it of it all, and that's not a question that any one human should try to answer by themselves. That's why we have different religions to try to answer that questions, different philosophies, people trying to define the existence of life, different pursuits that people go over to find meaning in life. But personally, you just have to, like, one step at a time, see what your life is, and choose, most importantly, what your life should be.